Hey guys, Nicole, and I am jumping back into my Super Savers Sketch Club kit, which is from Scrapbook Generation. The one that I'm working on here is from the March 2013 Super Savers kit, and I am working on the Sketch Day 1 layout. There's two different options that you can do. I chose the sketch and example that was done by Debbie Sanders. And right now I'm just kind of laying out my photos and sort of double checking my notes that I had scribbled down when I did my photo process, and sort of kind of just got a game plan when I pull everything together and get ready to do like a big batch of kits. And I'll post a link below to the video that I did where I show just kind of how I go about matching up my photos and sort of dumping them to a photo processing place like Shutterfly or something. And what I'm doing right now is I've set out my background papers, and off to the side out of the frame is the instructions that came with the kit and the sketch, and I'm just following along with the cutting guide and the instructions that are included with the kit. And I'm just kind of double checking and making sure I have the right papers. And the Super Savers kit is the one subscription kit from them that does not include photos. So the photos that I showed at the beginning, I got off of their blog, and I just drop them into a Word document so that later on when I'm sort of working with the kit, I can kind of figure out like which sketch am I going to do on the ones that's like Sketch Day 1 and Sketch Day 2, where you have different options. And I also print out the 3 Super Saver photos as well, and I just tuck all of that into my kit. And then when I get photos matched up to them, I tuck those into my kit too, and then that way I'm kind of ready to go when I have a chance to sit down and put these together. And I grabbed a brown chalk ink to just go ahead and ink the edges of all the pattern papers. And unfortunately, I think I'm either not zoomed in right, or I'm just slightly out of frame, but pretty much all I'm doing right now is, inking the edges of my papers, rounding anything, and the instructions that said, you needed a corner rounder for, and just kind of doing, I guess what most people would say is like the boring part of a layout, but this is the part that I actually like the most, is trimming down my papers and sort of wallpapering my layout. So I'm just going ahead and starting to lay down all the papers that I had cut. And again, I'm following the photo printout more than I follow the actual sketch, and that's just, I'm more of a visual person. I just find it easier to sort of follow along with a photo than with a sketch. So I tend to use the sketch more for the measurements on what I'm trimming, and like the measurements on placement as far as like if anything is 3 inches from the bottom, or how much overhang, and that type of thing. And you can see just even in this little bit, like how fast these kits go together, and that's one of the reasons why I love to subscribe to these, because you get 5 double page layouts sent to you in a month. And if you're on the ball with your scrapbooking, like at the end of the month you have 5 double page layouts, and they're usually jam packed with photos. Like, it's not 1 or 2 photos for a layout, it's typically 5 to 15 photos that you're able to fit on a layout. And I really am trying to be better about getting these done. So I'm kind of trying to, in between design team commitments, sit down and put the ones together that I have already matched up photos, and I've already sort of determined which layout sketch that it's going to follow, and just trying to if I don't have anything immediately that needs to get done, I just try to grab one of these, and I love it because there's really not a whole lot of, I don't want to say not a lot of thought involved, because I mean, you do have to follow the instructions if you want it to look that way. Otherwise, you can kind of do your own thing. But I don't know, it's, to me, it's a little bit more relaxing to sort of just follow somebody else's instructions and somebody else's example, and an hour later I have a cute layout done, I have photos done down on a page and ready to go into an album. And so there I was just going ahead and putting the photos that were going on the right page. I went ahead and attached those. And then I am rounding the corners on this little piece of the pattern paper that you trim out. And then I'm just double checking my photo example against that strip pattern paper to make sure before I start cutting it that I'm grabbing the right pieces, because you can see there that extra piece of pattern paper is the same pattern as what's on one of those stripes, but it was just a slightly different tone. So I was trying to make sure that I was actually using the right pieces that they were talking about in the instructions before I went ahead and cut the paper down. And I love that after doing these kits, like the both sketch day kits, you get three sheets of pattern paper, and typically there's no embellishment, like there's no stickers and there's no additional embellishment. You can do an add-on purchase to get that. I just choose not to. But it kind of makes me think about my pattern papers a little bit differently, especially when I go to purchase them. Because then I kind of know later on, like if I'm working with one of their sketchbooks or one of their, their free downloads or something, that bare minimum, all I'm going to need is 2 sheets of cardstock and 3 sheets of pattern paper. And with the fact that most pattern papers are double-sided, and most pattern papers now sort of have like areas that you can either cut apart or fussy cut, or there's border strips, different things that you can kind of look at and maybe incorporate those as your embellishments. And then you can always later on grab stuff from your stash if you feel like you need to beef up the embellishment portion. But these kits are definitely making me sort of rethink the stuff that I already have in my stash, and when I go to buy pattern papers. Like there's always those patterns that I'm going to naturally be drawn to and that I love, but I'm kind of taking a second look at the ones where maybe it's like the pattern that had the 12-inch border strips. Normally I would kind of be like, ooh, I don't really know about that. But after putting a page like this together where you are cutting them apart and actually kind of looking at them as different pieces of pattern paper strips instead of just that busy sheet of whole strips, I don't know, to me it just kind of like a light bulb goes on. And now when I see patterns like that in my stash, I kind of immediately start thinking of different ways that I could cut it apart and different ways that I can use it. So all I've been doing on the left page is I went ahead and put my photos down, inked the edges of those banner strips that I trimmed out earlier, fussy cut the flower off of one of those border strips, inked that, grabbed some pop dots and popped it up. And then now I am grabbing a circle punch from my stash. And this is like what I was talking about, where you're kind of using the pattern paper that they give you in the kit for your embellishments. And because this is the only part of that entire strip of pattern that you use, I kind of just went through the words and sort of punched the circle so that it emphasized, I guess, part of the pattern that I liked. Like there was one that had two little hearts, and then there was this little section on the paper that said you plus me, and so I punched that out. And then this is pretty much the only thing that I kind of deviated from the example. Was I just grabbed this little phrase stamp and some gray ink, and I liked how well it fit underneath that little "so happy together." And I just like to have maybe just like a little something on these pages that's maybe more me, or just something that I added to it. And stamping is one of those things that's kind of like a no-brainer for me, just because it doesn't add any extra layers and it doesn't make my page like bulky or anything. And here I grabbed that leftover sheet of pattern paper and I ran it through my printer and just did, a little bit of journaling on it. And I think this might have been another area where I deviated from the sketch, because I can't remember if the original sample, I think you might have put the journaling somewhere else. I think it was intended to go on that little blue square, or even just anywhere. It didn't have like a designated area for journaling, so I just went ahead and did journaling strips, and then kind of looked at where things already were on the page to determine where I thought that they would look good. So I just trimmed those down. I inked them and I set them aside, and I went ahead and put down my papers on the right side so I could get kind of a better idea of where I wanted to put those journaling strips. And again, I'm just using those photos that I printed out as my guide to putting these down. And this is that little blue piece of pattern paper that I think might have been like the intended area to put your journaling on. Like I said, I just decided to kind of go with the journaling strips and use some of the leftover paper for that. And I just popped up that little punched circle, and I'm trimming down these little banner pieces and just kind of eyeballing how long they needed to be according to what I could see in the photo. And then this is where I was kind of taking a look and trying to see where I wanted to put those journaling strips, and I kind of decided to break them into like two different thoughts. So I'm putting the one thought up underneath the park bench. I just thought it looked cute, kind of mixed in with all those other papers, and then I put the other one down underneath my photo just because I felt like that area was a little barren or kind of just blank, so I just kind of felt like that would be a good area to put that. And these photos are from when both of my kids were babies, every month I would take a picture of them in that chair. And it seemed like every month when I would put my daughter in the chair and try to take her pictures, my son somehow always knew that we were in there. And he would always sneak in, climb into the chair, and I tried to get my one picture in before he, caught on that we were in there doing that and decided, Mommy, take my picture. And it's one of the few times where they're just kind of calm and happy together and, not fighting. So I would always try to just take a couple outtake pictures while they were in there together. Oh, and that little today sticker was just something I had out on my desk from, I think it's a Bella Boulevard sticker sheet. And here's a photo of the completed layout, and then a couple photos just of the different clusters and the journaling so that you could see those a little bit better. And And again, I will be putting all of these videos from this particular kit, which again was March 2013. I'll be putting these all on one playlist so that they're all together. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.